Hi, good evening, and welcome. I'm Philip King. I'm your host tonight on the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast on Harry's channel tonight, in his absence. So Harry Scarfe is actually lucky enough and well deserved enough to be attending the Football Content Awards 2025 tonight as a finalist in the Best Young Content Creator category up in Leeds. The ceremony there is taking place in actually directly at Ellen Road in Leeds, which is obviously the stadium of Leeds United. And obviously, we all wish him good luck and all the best and good fun tonight as well. It's going to be an amazing night up there. I know Harry's got a lot of votes as well, so we're all crossing our fingers. But enjoy it, Harry, as well. Make sure you have a good time, and we're crossing everything for you. So it's a pleasure to be able to host. I think my second time on Harry's channel tonight, and tonight in this episode we're actually going to be previewing the North London derby, which is obviously coming up to us on Sunday. We love it, we hate it, we embrace it, we suffer through it. But we'll be going into detail tonight on what we all think about it, what maybe some of our predictions are. We're going to look at the teams. We're going to look at potentially some of the injury challenges as well, not just for Spurs as well, because I know that Arsenal are missing a few players as well by the looks of it. So I'm going to introduce your panel tonight on the channel. So kicking off, we've got Jordan here on the channel as well. Would you like to say a few words about yourself, Jordan?
Yeah, of course. Pleasure to be on it. Actually, my first time coming on. Looking forward to a good episode. Not looking forward to the North London derby as much. That's about it, really. I can find me on Twitter there, talking to myself about Tottenham usually. But it's nice to be in a football conversation and not be the only Tottenham fan for once. So it should be good fun.
Great, thanks so much, and enjoy your debut as well. Enjoy your debut. Then coming on to our second guest as well tonight is Sean. I'll try. I've seen your Twitter handle there, but I'll leave you to introduce yourself, Sean.
Hi there, I'm Sean. I tweet alone as well, so don't worry, Jordan. You're not the only one out there in the big world wanting to talk about Tottenham. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay? It's all good, yeah. Okay, all right.
And as ever, I don't look forward to this, particularly this version of the North London derby, because our record at the Emirates is pretty poor. But yeah, it always sort of reminds me that my first ever game ever as a young boy was Spurs versus Arsenal back in, I hate to say this, 1968. So you can age me from that. I'm 64 years old now. So I've been following this team a lot longer, and as you can see, I've got every grey hair, and I put every one of them down to my football club. But I've also got some great memories as well. So and some good memories in this game as well. But it's the game when the fixtures are published, it's the one you look forward first for. When are we playing Arsenal? And then when the games come, you say, when is it over? When's it over? Because you don't enjoy it until the final whistle's gone and the 3 points are secured.
Indeed. Thanks, Sean. Where you kind of dialing in from? Where are you based?
I'm based in Paisley, just outside of Glasgow in Scotland. So I'm a member of the Glasgow Spurs.
Nice.
We've got our AGM on Sunday, and there's talk of me being made chair. So who knows? But we'll see. But I'm looking forward to meeting up with the other Spurs. About 200 of us in sort of Glasgow and West Scotland who, join together. Some not every week, but there's 200 of us signed up. So we're quite a thriving group anyway.
Excellent. Before I move on to just introduce our third guest tonight, Harry, Jordan, where are you dialing in from? Where are you based?
Yeah, I'm from London. Probably the wrong side of London for this podcast. I'm a South London boy, but heart's been in the north for a while now.
Nice. Welcoming Harry as well into the pod tonight. Do you want to just say a few words about yourself? Where you're from?
Yeah. Well, I'm from North London, so I live in Southgate. I don't know if you know where Southgate is, so I'm kind of right in the middle of it, really. So I'm born and raised a Spurs fan. Didn't have a choice. And I have a YouTube channel as well, so I have a show every Friday at 5:30, and I've been going to Spurs since I was a kid, so since 1998, 1999, I guess that's the earliest memories I have. But yeah, I hate and love this game at the same time. Like, it's exciting, but it's also like the worst game to watch because I just part of me wants Sunday to be over already. But then if we win, anyway, it's going to be carnage to us. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Harry. I think we'll get into it in detail, but for everyone, I think the North London derby means a lot of different things. Like, we've experienced so many emotions over the years. To some of our younger Spurs fans, I guess, who've probably supported or started supporting Spurs in the last 20 odd years, we've probably fared overall a bit better maybe than we certainly did in the 90s, from own personal memory as well. Although having said that, our record at the Emirates is incredibly poor, isn't it? We'll talk about that as well in terms of the history as well. But kicking off, and actually, sorry, before I kick off, let me just quickly say just 2 lines to me and to my background as well. I'm based over in Germany, in Frankfurt. I've been living over here for like 15 years, something like that, but originally come from west of London in Berkshire. Been a Spurs fan for my whole life, so over pretty much 40 years. So yeah, been through the 80s and the 90s as well, and obviously the more modern times as well. But Sean, I'm on a German Spurs fan club here as well. I'm a member here, and I've actually just been elected to the board a couple of months ago as well. So we're trying to grow our southern Germany Spurs presence officially. And I think actually there's some stuff happening officially with the club here in Germany. There's going to be some videos being filmed here in Germany, actually, officially by the club with some of the Spurs fan clubs locally. I know there's a big event going on in Düsseldorf. And of course, we're going to be playing Dortmund not Dortmund. What am I talking about? We're playing Dortmund at home. We're going to be playing here in Frankfurt end of January again. So some people may have come out in the last couple of years. We've played obviously Frankfurt a couple of times, but we're going to be playing in January again. So again, just a quick shout out. If anyone watching, if any of our listeners, watchers are planning on coming out in January, then feel free to hit me up. On any tips, advice, staying, where to go, where to eat, whatever. Sounds like there's going to be a big meetup of Spurs, German Spurs fans here, plus obviously all the regulars that will come out. So the last time we played it, when obviously we won in the quarterfinals, I think it was, wasn't it, last year? Frankfurt was pumping with Spurs energy, literally. So, fair play to everyone that came out, and I'm sure it's going to be the same again. So, yeah. So moving into kind of the analysis, I would say, starting off with you, Jordan. There's been a lot of narrative right around obviously Tottenham playing Arsenal. Our record in recent years, but I would say the last 2-3 years, under Ange, but also our record at the Emirates, which isn't particularly positive. What do you think would be, an acceptable result, on Sunday? Are you going into the game kind of expecting, rather that we're not going to get anything out of it, so anything that we get out is a positive, or are you actually going into the game quite positive, bearing in mind that Tottenham actually still have the best away record in the league as it stands still tonight?
I've got to be honest. I'm probably up there with the most pessimistic Spurs fans that you can get. This season, especially, I haven't really been wowed by us at all. Whether that be it tactically, individual players, performances, anything like that. But for whatever reason, and I don't know why, I weirdly feel confident about Sunday, and I really don't ever. I don't think I've said that in my life before. So this is a little bit of a new sensation. I don't know what it is. I like it might be the away form. It might be the fact that form goes out the window. I don't know. As you touched on earlier about the different injuries for both sides. This is probably going to be. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be the first game they've played without Gabriel this season. And obviously, the kind of whether I'm just convincing that this might be a little bit of a good thing, but we've played with whatever 11 we're going to start, whatever system, we've at least had that 11 on the pitch. I think there's something to be said that it'll be their first game. Hopefully the crowd is as loud as it should be, as the away fans definitely can be. Assuming they're going to play, Saliba and Hincapié, or whether it be Mosquera, whoever it's going to be, it's not like they're going to be bad players. But in an ideal world, if you're Arteta or if you're any football manager, changing your back two, who are probably the most important element of their team and of their setup, changing that in such a big game, I'd be nervous, and that's coming from us who played. Last time we went there, it was Archie Gray and Radu there, so we're probably used to a little bit of having a bit of a makeshift back four. But I don't know. Going back to your original question, I'd say I'd take a draw right now, which is a horrible thing to say about any football game, but a draw at the Emirates, all things considered, I think I'd take it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would as well, overall, if we're being honest. Moving on to you, Sean. You mentioned before that your first ever game was against Arsenal back in, was it 1968? Back in the days when, our records, compared to Arsenal, probably in terms of, certainly, we had more FA Cup wins at that point. We didn't have as many titles, obviously, but we had more European wins, as we still do, clearly. The club's trajectories of kind of, obviously, in the 90s and I guess the 2000s specifically, that at least the first decade of it under Wenger, and obviously looking at our situation, kind of drifted apart a bit, really, right, in terms of what success looked like at that time and how it was going. When you looking at the game on Sunday, I guess similar to Jordan, are you, do you go into that game with any real sense of confidence, or is it, literally, looking at how Frank sets up, looking at how we're probably going to play, that, we might be able to pinch something out of this, a bit of a smash and grab? What do you think about it?
It's to me, it's one of those games where you look at it either with your head or your heart, and with my heart, I'm hoping that, for the positive, that we'll take something from the game. But my head sort of says that, looking at their, even without the loss of Gabriel, who is a major threat in our box, not just not just does a good job in his own box, he's a major threat in our box. Does it even it out? I mean, the depth that they have in defence is unbelievable now, and they'll play Hincapié, no doubt, as his replacement, and that's a player that was long linked with us, for example, when he was in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not. No, I'm not. I would be telling a lie if I was optimistic about what's going to happen Sunday. As you kind of alluded, our records up until the arrival of Wenger were quite similar. I think in terms of wins and wins and losses, and I've actually seen us win at Highbury. I've never actually been to their new stadium since they've moved there, so I can't speak for that. But it's you just two wins since they moved there in 2006. It's quite a poor record. I mean, probably only our record against Chelsea is worse. But no, I think I'm hoping. My heart is saying yes, we're as good as them. On a up fight, but we're going to have to be 100%. All 11 players are going to have to play to the top of their ability. They're going to have to not concede, like Sunderland did in the last league game. They only conceded 2 corners. I mean, if we can set that as a benchmark, not giving away corners, particularly as the last corner we gave away, Manchester United equalised from. So I do hope that we're not we're not pressurised into making some of the mistakes like in last year's derby at their place, where we kind of we folded, and too often I've seen us fold at the Emirates,
Yeah, I think what disappointed me last season as well was that we did fold and it was all too easy, somehow. I don't think Arsenal last season were even that great in any of the derby games from memory. They didn't put us under massive pressure. I think even the home game, was it Declan Rice that scored? I can't remember, but or was it even Gabriel? I can't remember, but
it was Gabriel scored from a corner at our place. 1-0.
Yeah, 1-0, exactly. It was, Arsenal were quite defensive in that game from memory, but we just didn't really kind of do much. Sticking with you, just Sean, on that though, would you looking at the opposition? So looking at Arsenal, would you say that they are? Do you think they're genuine title favourites at the moment? Looking at the other teams and how they're playing in the league, and I guess following on from that, are they massively stronger than last season coming up against us?
Yeah, I think they've this summer they've really just they've changed the way that they've played. They've become, I mean, it seems to play into Arteta's book, which is don't concede. So and the thing is, you can win you can win games if you don't concede goals, and that seems to be their strength. When it was last season it was a negative for them because, for example, I felt they were so defensive against City away that was really what cost them. That they would they wouldn't go on the front foot, but they've almost doubled down on that. But of course, everyone seems to be changing and evolving into a kind of defence first, and there's not so much possession football. That tells in the number of goals that have been scored from set pieces rather than from open play. The fact that if you're good defensively, you tend to be at the top of the table, which includes us. We are good defensively, but it's for a purist like me, for an old Spurs boy, a very old Spurs boy, it's not pretty to watch. And I'm still not convinced of the myths that were of Thomas Frank that I was sold in the summer. He's still got some way to go to convince me that he's going to be an attacking player or produce an attacking team. And part of that is down to the fact that he hasn't yet got all his own players, of course, but we're so ponderous, so slow, and for example, he wants the ball to get out wide so that we can get crosses in. But where it's taking 3 passes instead of just 1 pass to get it out to the one, it's allowing defensive lower block teams to just let us horseshoe around them, for 90 minutes, and it can be quite tedious, I'm afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not going to be the only Spurs fan, obviously, out there who's still got or has got some question marks around Thomas Frank in terms of, how is he going to play moving forward? Is he going to be able to get us, kind of rocking and rolling from an attacking standpoint? I think, as we've also discussed on the pod here, several times in the last couple of weeks, there's probably the mitigating factor, of course, of the attacking players' injuries. The fact that we don't really have a striker, apart from Richarlison, obviously, but he's been also hotly debated over the last few weeks, and probably the proof's going to be in the pudding as to whether he's still going to be a Tottenham player, maybe in February, right after the January transfer window. But moving over to you, Harry, I'm just going to ask you the question about Thomas Frank really quickly before we go into the game on Sunday, right? What's your overall feedback and feeling on Thomas Frank so far this season in the literally 3 months that he's been here? Are you happy? Do you think he's above the curve? Is he kind of, down the middle where we should be at the moment, or are you disappointed with him?
Well, first of all, I'm a bit biased because he was the one I wanted to replace Ange. So you might have to take that into consideration. But I have my reasons why I wanted him, because I think he gave us more structure, which we've seen straight away. I think for me, I'm very happy with him. I would say we're kind of where I expected us to be, pretty much. I didn't expect us to be bulldozing teams after 3 months of him being in charge. Even some of the home games, if you look at our attacking options, even when they're all fit, apart from Kudus and maybe Xavi, who the jury's still out. Not like I don't rate him. I just think he's going to take time to adjust to the league like Wirtz at Liverpool. I didn't expect us to be just attacking, bulldozing teams. So I think Frank knows this, hence why he said himself he's going to fix the defense first. And I think he sort of has. Like you can see, like I said, we're way more structured and organised in the back compared to where we were the past 2 years, which you can see the levels of the massive lack of coaching there. And for me, I'm like happy just because I kind of expected this. I didn't expect him to come in and suddenly just flick a switch and us to be fixed within like 3 months. And also, I kind of give grace to every manager for one season, regardless. So, like, for example, I wasn't happy, obviously, that we threw away the lead against United at the end, but I was kind of like, well, this is going to happen because we're still a work in progress. Like, Frank still has some stuff to fix. And I don't know if you saw the transfer rumors this morning about a new keeper. I mean, I hope that's true because it's obvious Vicario is massively weak on set pieces. And I've been saying that for a couple of years, and maybe we'll fix it in January, hopefully. But like he's clearly identified certain problems and he's slowly just fixing them. But I think as like for the team to kind of have some chemistry and bond together, like this is kind of like first year Poch where it was just a mess. If you guys remember. And it's kind of that in a sense, because obviously Poch inherited a squad which was a bit of a mishmash of previous managers, and I think Frank's kind of got the same. And I think the difference is that he kind of already has his back four from before, and the difference is he's just coaching them, and the tactics are like different. So, but the rest of the team, like we know us, is not very good, and our midfield, I like Palino a lot, and Ben's. But question marks. I think something like that might play a part in the midfield. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. So,
yeah, I think you're right on the fact that for anyone to expect Thomas Frank to come in and start blowing away teams, especially without having a Kulusevski, without having Maddison. Is very tough, and obviously without having a Solanke or another top striker there at the moment, I think it's very tough. So, the the proof's going to be more in the pudding, I think, as well, coming into next year, after we've gone through the winter period. And, maybe Kulusevski's back by then, Solanke's back by then. I think there could be big changes and big impacts on the games as well. So let's see about that. Just sticking with you, Harry, quickly as well. And, we'll talk about the team and, kind of who we think, Frank might play in the team, in a sec, and maybe have a look at the opposition team as well. But some fans have said that Frank, maybe not it's maybe not his defensive or his attacking philosophy, right? It's not how he wants to play the game. But some fans have kind of almost accused Frank in some respects of worrying more about the opposition than focusing on what we can do in terms of how he has set up, for games and for oppositions. And what I'd like to just ask your quick viewpoint on as well, and this goes into the team. A lot of fans have been calling for Udogie to start. Me as an example as well. I think that Udogie, when he plays, he brings automatically balance. He brings automatically, verve and attacking stuff down the left-hand side straight away, compared to when Spence has played there. And Spence, in my opinion, isn't a left back, but he can do a job there. So my question to you is, bearing in mind that fans say that Frank looks at the opposition and tries to maybe come up, to nullify them maybe sometimes, do you think that he may play Spence on the left on Sunday, despite Udogie being fully fit? And despite probably, I would say, the majority of Spurs fans probably calling for Udogie to play if he's fit.
I'm in the minority then. I would play Spence on the left because of Saka. I'm playing Spence. I'm sorry. I'm playing Spence on the left because of Saka. Because he's the one player you cannot, because the thing with Udogie is, I'm not saying he's not good at all, but okay, he does give us more width for Spence logically, and we've seen it. He's gonna just tuck in or bring the ball inside. And I like Udogie's relationship with Odegaard. I think that's been a real bright spark the past few weeks. I like seeing them on the pitch together, but when you're playing against Saka, I don't trust Udogie to really do the recoveries, and also Udogie's end product I've got a massive question mark over as well. He gets into great positions, but it's not always the best end product. And for me, I'm playing Spence, and I'm probably minority now then after what you just told me. So, but that's what I would do, because we're playing away from home as well, and we're playing against what they're probably title favourites, I think. So I think I would play Spence personally. So
yeah,
I think he will play Spence. Yeah,
it's an absolutely fair point. I mean, away from home anyway, against probably the best team in the league potentially, or one of the top 3 teams in the league. I guess it's different from playing at home, especially when a lot of fans have been calling for the double pivot not to be played as well at home, but away maybe it's a different topic. So it's a very fair point.
I think it's probably a problem with I hate to say this, I'm probably going to offend a lot of people, but with Spurs fans, we have, for some reason, they have this. I'm a Spurs fan myself, but maybe I'm not like this. This idealistic way that we need to play, where we have to be all attacking, which is why Ange kind of got away with it for 2 years. But then you can't play like that every game. You're not going to play a team worse than you every game, so you can't really play this expansive football every game. And which is why I like Frank, because, for example, away to Arsenal or away to Chelsea, even I know people didn't like the home to Chelsea stuff, but I kind of agreed with his team selection because I knew Chelsea were 2 or 3 years ahead of us. And you can tell by the level of their pressing and just the players they had on their bench pre-start most of our team. In those games, you have to adjust. Otherwise, we would have been massacred against Chelsea, for example. And against Arsenal, I'm more confident with Frank rather than Ange last season, where I just kind of watch the game half-heartedly and thought we'd lose. So, that's just my opinion. So, I just think we're too fixated on playing a certain way, and we're not going to be able to play that certain way every game. You just have to sacrifice the aesthetically speaking, in some games the way you play to get results. It's a product of football. It's just how it is, unfortunately.
I'm just going to shout out, it's on the screen there, but I'm going to shout out a comment posted by David Clark, who's one of our regulars here on the pod as well. So, big up to you, David. Udogi's a better attacking option than Spence, but he isn't a great defender. And when he does get to the byline, there's no end product. And with Spence, he's a waste of space attacking, one-footed. If he's on the left, Spence, probably yes. On the right, attacking wise, probably better. But I guess both of them have got their positives and both of them have got their negatives, right, in terms of how they play. Unfortunately, neither of them is kind of like your finished product, right, in terms of the all-round article, coming forward or defending, probably. But just moving on to you, Jordan. Just sticking with that quickly as well. Like, do you think that Thomas Frank will play Spence because we're playing away from home? And obviously, I would imagine, looking at how we've played the other away games, City, Everton, Leeds, probably likely we're going to sit back, and be solid. Or do you think that he might possibly, I don't know, either surprise Arsenal on that perspective or actually play Udogie just because he kind of does give us maybe just a bit more natural flow and balance, like as a team, even if we do sit back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the Spence Udogie it's almost like a good problem to have. I think they both bring a lot of good qualities that we're looking for in that fullback position. Obviously, Spence covering the right as well. I'm very much and I love Spence. I love his character. A lot of the stuff he does, like outside of the pitch. We're crying for players to have personalities, and it's really cool to have him, representing us. I think as a left back, Udogie does bring way more. I agree. As a 1v1 defender, Spence is more talented, and I think he's more of a naturally raw defender. The issue with being against Saka, I don't actually think Saka's a brilliant 1v1 dribbler. I think he's more in the kind of Grealish kind of ball carrying molds of kind of hugging touchlines and kind of progressing the play upwards, instead of a Doku who's a 1v1 stand you up and go around you, where a Spence would be more important. I think the kind of differential between them two's defensive abilities is really made up in the aggregate of Udogie's ability going forward. Not only hagging the left line, but we see it under Ange as well, which I didn't agree with, but a lot of the time, Udogie was picking up positions of like a number 10 or a very advanced forward, where we had Son, which hugging the left, which was the complete wrong option, but it still showcased that, Udogie had that ability to go central as well as hugging the left. And not only that, it's having, as much as I love Mickey, on the ball, teams aren't worried about him having the ball. You see it a lot when Romero's not there. A big thing of Frank's kind of build-up at Brentford was passing it between the back four, waiting for the press to come on and then hitting the space behind. One, we don't really have any runners to do that. Two, especially if Romero's not there, a left-hand side of Van der Ven and Spence, teams aren't worried about that being on the ball. They're not worried about, we got to get there, we got to press to shut that first phase of the play down, where I think with Elisa Udogie, if he's then hugging that touchline on the left and forcing high, Saka's only got to track him. We can, and maybe that speaks into the Thomas Frank sort of the mindset of, are we setting up to counteract them or having our own implement on the game? And it's a difficult one because, as I say, a team like Arsenal, on paper, you should set up to, counteract them, but sometimes going forward is the best way of defending. You're putting our left back as high and wide, or if he's central and then whoever will be on the left, I assume it will be Odegaard. He may want to go for a more combative midfield and do Sarr in the 10 and Xavi on the left. Xavi cutting in from the left would mean Udogie has to be wide left as well. So Saka has to track that. Like, you have to track that. Obviously, they've got a very, very good midfield that comes and helps the wide channels. Timber, I think, is a very, very annoyingly very good fullback. He's a great player. I think he's going to start Spence. I would start Udogie. As I say, going back to more, I just think it gives you a lot more for Arsenal to then think about. I don't think Saka possesses that much 1v1 ability that Udogie's defensiveness is then deemed useless, if that makes sense. I think he as I say, nowhere near the ability of a 1v1 defender of Spence, but we've seen him, these recovery runs, especially covering the space with Van der Ven when he goes on these, marauding runs. I would really start Spence, and personally probably go Xavi in the 10 and Odegaard on the left as well. But I also understand earlier, obviously, I think Bergvall probably going to still miss this game, but I wouldn't mind for this game seeing Xavi off the left one more time. Although I don't think that's his position at all. I think in the way we're setting up, it's probably going to get more of the ball than kind of a lone 10. So I really wouldn't mind seeing there, and then maybe a Sarr in the 10, or obviously Bergvall if he's injured, but maybe a little bit more of a combative midfield.
Cheers, Jordan. Yeah, I think that looking at the rest of the team, we do have some decisions to make, because there's some question marks, I think, still about a couple of players, right? I think Sarr was injured on international duty in the last game, and so far we don't seem to know whether he's going to be fit or not. It sounds like there's a chance,
especially with our medical team.
Well, with that, anyways, he's probably arrived back with a bruised, bruised finger or something, or a bruised toe, and it suddenly turned into an ACL or something from nowhere. But he's a question mark. So, and he would potentially impact. If he was fit, then he may even play the 10 role. If Xavi would then play on the left. Possibly, Bergvall, we assume he's back after his concussion, but we don't know. Apparently, he was dizzy on international duty as well. So I believe he also returned home early after one game, suffering dizzy spells. So that doesn't really sound that great. Then we're potentially limited, right, in terms of who we can maybe put in the middle and play on the left. But coming on to you, moving back onto you, Sean. So a very quick answer needed on Udogie or Spence. Who would you like to start, and who do you think will start? And then I'm going to ask you about the centre midfield partnership.
I would like to start Udogie. I'm sorry. I prefer a fullback whose natural foot is his left foot, because I think, if we want to use a benchmark, the last two visits to the Emirates, in the first year of Ange, Udogie was booked after 15 minutes and then went on to mark Saka out of the game. And he never got a sniff. One of the best defensive performances I've ever seen at the Emirates by one of our players. Second season last year, Spence and Bissouma contrived to give, after we'd taken the lead, they contrived to give away the equaliser between them, because Spence just doesn't have a left foot. I'm sorry, if you're playing left back, sometimes you just have to put your left foot through the ball and send it up the line. And he can't do it. He just cannot do it. And I'd rather develop him as a right back, as an alternative to Porro, than spend our time.
I think we've lost you, Sean. Has everyone else lost him?
Yeah, I've lost him.
Yeah, he's gone. He's frozen in my computer.
Once he gets over the halfway line, it's like he takes a nosebleed.
Oh,
so. Yeah, sorry, I think I made my point, but yeah, it's Udogie for me, but I would rather Spence was developed as an alternative to Porro as a right back, because that's his natural position. He doesn't have a left foot, which is a key possession you need as a left back. Midfield, without a doubt, you're going to have to play Paulinho and Bentancur. You're going to have to. In fact, I might even try a 4-5-1 and stuff, and because they are very good at switching the ball from left to right, and I just think we need to make ourselves difficult to pass through on Sunday.
Yeah. Do you with regards to Palina and Bentancur in the middle, there's also been a lot of criticism from Spurs fans, probably less so in the last couple of weeks because he did kind of change it right at some point, didn't he? He brought Sarr in and Sarr played well. But obviously away from home anyways, he's tended to play that double. Do you agree with the statement where you would say that just because it's a double pivot per se, or rather because both of those players are by nature a bit more defensive and a bit more, obviously Palina is, but Bentancur used to be more attacking probably before his injury. Now he's a bit more kind of all round, but he's not exactly a defensive midfielder. Do you subscribe to the argument where people would say that Frank, by playing both of those players, regardless of whether it's away from home or at home, that is the reason, or one of the main reasons, why we just can't progress the ball forwards? Like, is it literally just a case of one player missing in there that would like drastically change things, or is it more the mentality and the individual performances, possibly like of a Bentancur, where they clearly could be told, as an example, well, you need to try and pass the ball forwards when you get the opportunity? How do you see that dynamic in when Frank comes to pick his midfield?
I think that may well be Frank's intention, but it just doesn't develop as the game state goes on, and you tend to find that they're both kind of treading on each other's toes. But sometimes that's a bonus when you're under pressure, like when you're playing a City, for example, having them. But then, and in that game, we pressed very, very high indeed. I think I remember Romero and Van der Ven were virtually in the centre circle for the whole game. So it's different. And I don't know what Sarr did, which caused him to be dropped, because he was by far our best player at the start of the season, but seemed to was out of favour. And I'm just a wee bit concerned that we're squandering a talent. For me, a talented player. I'll put my hand up here. I'm a big fan of Bentancur. I just think he's such a classy player, and he does a lot of what I call firefighting. You'll often find him, tidying up at the back behind Porro. When Porro's gone AWOL up the wing, and others, just putting his foot in now and then. He's not as combative, say, as Paulinho is, and Paulinho has been a massive improvement to us. And that is I'm pleased that he's. It looks like we're going to keep him, but it's difficult. I think in many ways I feel Frank is still adapting to big club from small club, but I think he still retains some of that kind of don't lose rather than let's go win. And I sometimes feel he errs towards caution, but I can understand why on Sunday he will urge towards caution. And another thing, on the Udogie Spence debate, Udogie's just been away for 2 weeks in Dubai on rehab, so he may well not be fit enough to play on Sunday. He was there with Kulusevski, so our speculation may be for nothing because he might not be available.
Yeah, I think that anyways, I'd probably prefer Udogie to start on Sunday as well, purely because I think that he brings as I mentioned before, that automatic balance to the team, and coming forward down the left, his ball's down the line, and then running off it. He just automatically brings more to the play. Similar to when SARS played recently alongside Palhinha or Bentancur, it just brings more energy coming forwards, someone who can actually burst forwards. But to be fair, if he's been in rehab and he's maybe not 100% fit, then maybe there's an argument to say, is it a problem if he doesn't play this game? Because as Harry said as well, Spence is solid one-on-one, and at the end of the day, we're not going to go to the Emirates and play them off the park. That's not going to happen. So if Spence is playing in there and he can keep a handle on Saka and play things relatively simple, then maybe that's not a bad thing. And if that means that Udogi's then fit for the game after, the next home game, then so be it. That's not probably a bad result, actually. Sean, on your point though, just as well about Frank kind of being a bit, still that smaller club mentality or kind of like not to lose. I actually agree with you as well, but I think that may hopefully come with time. That he's worried as well to kind of lose games, from the jaws of, victory or something like we did, under our previous manager as well, though, right? Where we just gave away a lot of stupid goals. We were so open. We played good football at times, obviously, but I could imagine that Frank has a bit of a dilemma kind of in his head, a bit like how much should he poker, right? How much should he bet? Where does he get the balance right? And that will probably only come with time, But the fact remains is that if we hadn't given away that stupid equaliser against United, we would have been second in the league. Almost at the end of November. So it's kind of crazy as well, though, isn't it? But moving on to you, Harry, what do you think Frank's going to do? And, how do you see the kind of the front three as well, from an attacking perspective on Sunday? Again, Kudus was being injured. I understand he's having a fitness test tomorrow, just generally. He's obviously, he's kind of been able to recover for the last couple of weeks. I assume he wasn't on international duty, but I'm not sure. No,
I don't think he went. No, but
hopefully he's going to be fit. But we have the question of the striker and the question of the left-hand side. What do you think about it?
For me personally, I've been tempted to play like we played away to PSG and play a back five, like Sunderland did in the last game, because that clearly frustrated them. And then you could even, in that scenario, maybe you could play Udogi on the left, because obviously you'd have cover from all three centre halves. But I still think I'd still play Spence in that scenario probably. And I'd like to see personally a midfield of Sarr, Bentancur, and Palhinha again. But I don't know about Sarr's fitness, and if Sarr can't play, then he's going to have to play Xavi there. My worry with Xavi in a game like this is he could either make us or break us, because playing against Arsenal's midfield, I don't know whether he has the strength for it. I just don't know. And I just rather play those three, because I've seen it away to PSG where they worked well. And of course, we didn't have that much of the ball, but we shut them down for obviously 80 minutes of the game. And leave two up top and Kudus and whatever striker we have left, I guess, for Richarlison at this point. I like to see that personally, but if he's going to go with the back four, I'm really insistent on this. I want to see Odegaard play on the left rather than Xavi, because I think Odegaard will give us a bit more on the break if he's going to go with the back four. Even if he has to play Sarr in the middle and sacrifice Xavi, I'd rather see Odegaard than Xavi on the left personally, rather than just picking the player based on the fact that he's more expensive, I guess. I think Odegaard will give him more problems, because I think the past few weeks I've liked what I've seen of him. But how the game's going to go, I don't know. It's a derby, unfortunately, and I don't think we cannot concede early. Whatever happens, we can't concede early, because otherwise it's going to be Yeah, I don't think it's going to be very pretty if we can see that.
After the disaster of the Chelsea game, where we, you know, at the end of the day, we didn't turn up, did we? Really, you know, like there was nothing there from the players. You know, tactically, say what you want, can debate whether Frank set the team up or not, but I think the reality is that we didn't do anything in that game. It was so poor. Is it like? Do you think that the tactical setup by Frank is more important? Like, is the most important thing in this game, or is it literally almost just a case of us being able to just turn up? And if we turn up and we bring like the desired, you know, energy, you know, like we're biting into challenges, we're pressing, you know, you can tell by the body language that we're up for it, which so often hasn't happened, you know, and not only in North London derbies, but in a lot of games, you know. Do you think that's almost more important than the tactics, actually, up to a certain extent? Because Frank could set up in, as you said, he could set up in 5 at the back, he could set up 4-2-3-1, he could do a 4-3. Like, what's more important in terms of being able to get a result here in the end, do you think?
I think in these games, for me, it's more about just being very compact when you don't have the ball, and trying to shut down like passing lanes. And you know, obviously, they played. The difference with us and Arsenal is Arsenal have played pretty much not the same side, but like the majority of the players have played together for the past 3-4 years now, and they've been in this situation before where they have to catch a team or retain a lead at the top, or try and retain a lead at the top. So for them, especially with the draw at Sunderland, they'll come at us, I think, pretty strong, especially in the first 20 minutes. So whatever we do, we can't just like fall away mentally in by the wayside. Of course, bear in mind, the last win at the Emirates was when we were 2-0 down. We won 3-2 in the Premier League. But whether we can repeat that or not, I don't know. And I just don't think this Spurs side has the same quality of that Spurs side versus that Arsenal side to do it. Because I just think Renat's team had just way more quality. I hate to say it, but this is how I feel. And I think if we're going to get some result in this game, we have to be just really, really tough and just try and get something on the break and just hold on to it as long as we can. And then, of course, set pieces is going to be like our weapon as well. I know, obviously, Arsenal are very good at them as well, but I think if we score, it might be like a long throw from Dancer or something, or like a corner, or like we luckily get a penalty or something. But the few players that I really worry about is players like Richarlison, because if he's the only striker, he's going to have to put in like a 9 out of 10. And I've not seen Richarlison play 9 out of 10, apart from PSG in that game. And whoever plays with him, whether it's Johnson or the other two are like Odobert Johnson, or it depends on Kudus, of course. But I do expect Kudus to play personally. I think he'll pass the play fitness test. I think he'll play him. Even if he's not fully fit, I think he'll play Kudus.
Just a very quick follow-up question before I come to Jordan. Like, with regards to the striker, though, like, obviously Richarlison is, I guess, first choice, probably, based on the fact that we don't have, you know, anyone else there. Yeah. But what about Tell, though? You know, he came off the bench. He made an immediate impact together with Odobert. You know, he's obviously burning to try and, you know, prove himself. Do you think he's got a chance of starting on Sunday? Or do you think that Frank will maybe, I don't know if it's playing it safer, but we'll just go with Richarlison because,
he's the most senior. The thing with Richarlison is I think he's most likely to start because he's the most senior option we have. I mean, Tell, I know he's permanent, but he's only, is he 22? So I can't remember how old he's, 22. And also, I did think of Dave Scarlett, but I don't think there's any chance in hell Scarlett starts derby, even though he'll be quite interesting if he did. But like, I think Richarlison's going to start just based on the fact he's our most senior centre forward that's fit. Because if Moani was fit, I'm playing Moani every time over Richarlison in that game. Because I think Moani has already shown he's way better in every aspect than Richarlison. He's only played 3 games. But it doesn't look like Moani's going to play, is it, or not?
Well, it's funny you say that, because there was some reports a couple of hours ago saying that he could be fit for Sunday. He's been playing in a protective mask. He's been training as normal, apparently, the last 2 days, and he's been he's been wearing a protective mask, and he's fully fit. Apart from obviously the fact that if he gets an impact injury or something, probably then it's not gonna end too well. But apparently, it's not been confirmed.
If he can play, I'm playing Moani if he can play, because I just think he has, at least with Moani, what I've noticed with him is at least he can hold it and then try and link up with the other attackers. I think with Richarlison, my worry with him is it'll go up there and 9 times out of 10 from what I've seen in the past 3 years, it's going to come back straight back. And you maybe like the one game against PSG or like some other handful of games, people will probably write in the comments, he'll hold the ball up and he'll lay it off and had a great game. But it's just, I think it's important for us to just defend extremely well. And when we have the ball, we have to try and smash and grab something, like create something out of nothing sort of thing, or one through ball over the top and try and catch them because Gabriel's not playing, or like a corner or a long free kick or something. Or unfortunately, this is at London Derby is like this. Like all the goals we scored there that are like significant of being that kind of thing. You know, like a long shot, it hits the bar, it goes in or something, or a corner or you know, that sort of thing. Really.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, we've been under a bit of a time constraint today because of the other pod that we're doing as well. So our hour's gone quite quickly, actually. So it would have been nice to be honest, have another half an hour or 45 minutes because we're well into conversation here. But we're going to have to wrap it up now. But I'd just like to ask, thank you to everyone for coming on, obviously. And I'd just like to ask you all for your score prediction for Sunday. And also just to quickly answer the question of whether you think this game is more important. I mean, it's important for North London bragging rights, full stop, right? We know that. But is this game actually more important for Arsenal or for us in terms of, you know, getting 3 points, let's say? So starting with you, Jordan, what's your prediction? And who do you think it's more important to get the win for? In the big scheme of things.
In the big scheme of things, probably more for Arsenal. I think we've definitely got more of a, okay, this is our new manager, this is a new system. We've probably got more excuses to bring into the office in the next day and to talk on Twitter. We've got more excuses, but I think they've got Chelsea after us, and they've got a Champions League game. They've got quite a difficult run, and we've seen in the past few years they're pretty susceptible to a little bit of a bottle. So it'd be great if we could start that for them. But I think they see this as a way to get back to winning ways, obviously after Sunderland, and a big statement win to push on to that hard couple fixtures. And as a prediction, if I was putting money on it, I'm gonna say 2-1 to Arsenal. Sadly.
Come on, be more positive.
If I want my money back, I'm going for a little 2-1.
Mwani's going to get his debut goal on Sunday. Sorry, not his debut goal, his first goal.
His first goal. Let's hope so. Hope so.
All right, cheers, Jordan.
Thank you.
Sean, what are you thinking?
I mean, it must be a bigger game for Arsenal. If they play us on Sunday, play Bayern on Wednesday, and then they play Chelsea, and the online presence says they would rather win their next two league games. They'd even give up the Bayern game just to. So my biggest concern, it's a big game for Thomas Frank. If we were to get our backsides handed to us, the pressure that he's under will be nothing compared to what he will be under from there on, because given the limp performances against Chelsea and then to be really thrashed on Sunday, that would really heighten the pressure. So it's a big game for Thomas Frank. If we get a performance and we have a narrow defeat like Jordan has outlined, then I think he'll be fine. But if we don't get a performance, then it's going to be a hard night on social media on Sunday evening for certain. I'm hoping that we can get a draw. I'm hoping we can get a draw. Whether it's a 0-0, that would be even better. I'd love to have a 0-0 because they've done that to us so many times. So it would be good to do it to them. A 1-1 as well would be nice as well. But must score first. Must score first. If there's going to be goals in the game, we've got to score first.
Cool. Thanks, Sean. And Harry, what do you think?
It's definitely more important for Arsenal than it is for us because if Arteta doesn't win anything this season or doesn't win the league, I think he's basically they'll just throw him out the Emirates themselves with Arsenal fans. So for Arteta, it's probably the biggest game of North London derby of his career so far, probably. And for Arsenal, like if we were to get some sort of result there, I think they'll probably go into meltdown. But I think it will be 2-2, to be honest. I think the loss of Gabriel doesn't affect them too much because, Arteta has so many options in terms of combinations. But if he goes with, like, the wrong combination, because he has, you have no idea how many options they can do. They could even push Timber in the middle, put White on the right, push Calafiori in the middle, put Nkappi on the left, or the other way around. They could put Skelly on the left and play whatever one of the three centre-halves are just listed. Play Mosquera. They have so many options. But if he was to go for the wrong option and we would take advantage, which is kind of why I'm really pushing the 5-3-2 and just leaving two attackers on them, then it could be really, really bad on their social media. So I think it'll be like 2-2. And also, I think Gyökeres is out, and obviously Havertz is back till the New Year. So I think Marino is expected to play up front for them. And to be fair to Marino, he does get the important goals, the other important goal for them. He's not really a striker, but he's quite nippy. And Trossard, I know a lot of people don't really want to speak about it, but he gets a lot of clutch goals for them. So I think this game definitely has goals in them, and I'm probably saying 2-2 because I think we'll score 100%, but we're definitely going to concede as well. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Is anyone worried about Vicario?
Yeah,
on free kicks and corners and stuff, or I don't want to open that debate really right now because it's gonna that's an hour debate. Probably it could be an hour debate by itself, right? But I for what it's worth, I think he's got a lot of unfair criticism as well. But I think he's also got fair criticism as well, right? On his handling of certain situations, on
one word answer, Phil. No, I'm not worried about him.
For me, it's like obviously Gabriel not being there does help us in that respect a bit because Gabriel's like a beast on the corners, and that's probably what Vicario's biggest weakness is. So that kind of plays a little bit of a part. But obviously, it depends who they pick as a replacement there, like how much. Because he goes to Mosquera, I still think is a problem because Mosquera's like a big lad. If you play someone like Calafiori there or Nkappi, I'm not as worried. But yeah, I think it's gonna be quite an interesting game, obviously. But yeah, I'm never excited. I'm always nervous before. So,
yeah. For me, I don't think I've ever really been able to enjoy a North London derby properly. Obviously, if you're in the stadium, it's a great experience, but there's just so much nervousness. You don't want to screw up, do you? That's the thing. You don't want to give away stupid goals. You don't want to get obviously a kicking, like a clear defeat or something. So the bragging rights are even worse because you got thrashed. I'm gonna predict a 2-2 draw as well. I think there's going to be some goals in it. And I think we're going to play a 5 at the back or 3 at the back, however you want to do it. Which I hope will mix things up a bit as well. And if that means that we play Kudus and Richarlison up front, then like we did against PSG, I think that would be a good approach. But for me, I think as long as Frank sets up tactically well enough that we're compact, then that's enough. I think more important is that we all understand the players, how much is riding on the game. I think last season Ange, he kind of played down the North London derby, didn't he? A couple of times where you kind of was like, oh, didn't really, it's not a dig against Ange, but he did kind of play it down. He said, just another game, and I get why he said that, because he's like, oh, we want to normalize winning, we want to normalize, performances and stuff. But the fact is, that's one of our 2 most important games of the season, for any, proper Spurs fan. And the players need to show on Sunday. They need to show their energy, their power, their passion, their commitment, to the cause up to a certain extent. Because last season, I think wasn't Declan Rice injured from one of the games, or they had a couple of people missing, and everyone was like, this is our chance.
Yeah.
This is our chance, and we didn't really turn up again. So, they are missing some players as well. I guess Odegaard's still injured, is he as well? So
he might be back. I don't know.
They're
he might be back. I'm not too sure.
Martinelli's injured.
Is it Mendy injured? I think.
Yeah, I think he is actually, possibly. So Arsenal are going to be weaker, but Eze will play. They're going to be pretty solid in there. We've got our issues, but we've probably never faced, unfortunately, at least in the last, probably since, I would honestly say since the Wenger days, unfortunately, we've never faced.
I think it's probably the hardest Arsenal we faced, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I hate to reference it, but it's the only thing I can think of. Yeah.
We've never faced an Arsenal team, unfortunately, that's got such strength and depth at the moment, right? Where they can play around even in defence. So, we have to accept that. But we do have some strength as well. As I said, Danzo can come in as well. We've got Tell. So let's see. I think we have to stay positive, don't we? None of us have predicted too much of a thrashing or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think probably we have it. We're going to go into that game with nervousness, but we can do it. And if we pick up a point or something out of it, then that will help us in the league, and we could still be, top 5, top 6, come next week as well, and then hopefully the start of a slightly easier run of games as well with players.
PSG away afterwards.
Oh yes, perfect. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone for coming on. If you guys are online, or if you've got your own channels, if you do anything online, do you want to just quickly say where you are online, Jordan? Do you just want to say something more?
To be fair, I'm just on Twitter for now. I'm just on Twitter, so obviously everyone feel free to drop me a follow. See some bad tweets, but so you can find me.
Yeah.
Nice one, Harry.
Oh yeah, please subscribe to Hasbro TV if you haven't already. We're doing the Fun Dog Preview on my channel as well tomorrow at 5:30. And also you can find me on Twitter at Hasbro92. I don't tweet as much as I used to before, but I'm sure if something happens in the derby, you'll probably see me tweeting. But yeah, anyway, it's gonna be a long week because we've still got 3 more days till the game. So
thanks.
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, just a big shout out to my friends on PRTV Spurs. That's Paxton Road TV Spurs, who have their own channel. I haven't been on there for a while, but they're all good Spurs fans, and they want the very best, like the rest of us. So yeah, go over and see their channel and support them as well.
Cheers, Sean, and look, thanks to everyone for coming on, and a special shout out and a thanks again to our permanent host, Harry, who's obviously up in Leeds. We'll have to catch up on some of the photos and some of the updates there. Fingers crossed on hopefully maybe an award. But, at the end of the day, big kudos, big respect, obviously setting up such a fantastic channel, such amazing content as well. And also to everyone who contributes to the channel as well, not just on the pods, but actually, dealing with the graphics and the thumbnails and, the posts and doing research. Obviously, we've got a Premier League podcast roundup coming up just after this in about 15 minutes. So, if you want to join that, then jump on. And, there's so much more content coming as well. So big up, Harry. Thanks again to everyone. We're wishing you a good evening. And let's keep everything crossed a Sunday. No more injuries until then. Rather, lots of players coming back. Positive vibes. Let's do this. Come on, you Spurs.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah, bye.